Over there!
We can't let him get away!
Too late, fool! You will not escape! Us? What in the name of... Gary?
I'm sorry, okay? I hadn't prepped this part of the dungeon yet. I haven't had the time.
But you don't suffer from this, do you? For more than 2 years, you've helped us to enhance our tools, grow our map libraries, and given us a warm welcome in the community of map makers and game masters. We are honored to be part of this community, and all we can say is thank you.
Bring it on.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Till and you are watching the latest edition of our weekly DungeonFog community stream where we are looking at patch notes and we're looking at development progress of the DungeonFog battlemap editor and Deus if Deus is has some updates as well. Today we're going to look at the update that has the latest patch that has hit the server today, which is patch version 5.6.6 for the battlemap editor, and we will also, which I'm quite excited about, we will do a little sneak peek outlook of what is the next big update going to bring to you. So as always, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, don't forget to put a big question in front of it so I can find your question and answer it on stream. If I miss your question, my apologies, but then don't forget to join our Discord server, which is DungeonFog.com/Discord, and there you will find an amazing community that is out there to answer your questions as well, and you will always find some of our devs around our Discord server as well. Okay, so part number one for today's community stream is let's have a look at the recent patch that we have deployed, which is called our levels optimization patch. And for that, I will quickly bring my screen share up. Here we're going to look at the patch notes. So we're not going to read the patch notes. I'm using them mainly as a reference for myself. We're going to look at the editor itself. So the big thing that we have changed with the recent patch is the way that we're treating the levels of your levels tab in regards to the preview, the thumbnail preview that is generated for your dashboard, and the way that levels are treated in the export. On top of that, there are some other core changes which I find quite useful. For example, tab confirmation. So when you change values in the editor fields, you have to press enter to confirm those fields. Now tab is also working as a confirmation. So if you're someone like me who is changing a lot of fields in the, for example, colorization options, then you don't need to press enter tab, enter tab, enter tab. You can now tab directly through those fields and the changes will be accepted as well. The next thing is in your prop selection, you can switch between list view and tiles view. It's up to your preference whether or not you want to use the list view or the tiles view, but this is now stored in your account, which means the next time you come back, this will persist. Then there are some general changes and bug fixes, but basically if you want to know what has happened here in full detail, just go to DungeonFog.com/changelog. There you will find all the changelogs of our recent patches, our recent updates, also our DungeonFog Deus patches and Deus updates. So let's quickly look at how this patch is affecting your export. And I've prepped the map here to showcase this. And what you can see is that there are I'm now on the export tab of that map, and it consists of 4 levels, level 1 to level 4 ascending, but 2 of them I cannot use for export because they are blocked, because you have hidden them in your levels tab of the editor. The reason for that is that allows you to have better control whether or not you have something active and you want it to use it for export, or you have hidden it purposefully. So all I need to do is I go back into the editor and I can change that. So let the editor quickly load up. There you go. And in the levels tab, you can see that level 3 and level 2 are hidden. So I can unhide them, which has technically no effect unless I am on the specific level. And once I now go into export, you will see that I can use those levels for export as well. So this is quite handy if you are working with hidden and unhidden levels. If you're building a multi-level map in DungeonFog, this is going to make your life much easier because you always see whether or not a hidden level is part of your export image or not. Because as you can see, this level will contain, because of the transparent stage of this level, it will contain all the levels below. So I can control whether or not I want that to be the case or I want to disable something. The second thing which I find quite useful, especially when you are someone who's sharing maps in the public library, is we haven't yet made a way that you can decide which image is going to represent your map in the public library or is going to represent your map on the dashboard. So if I would go into my dashboard, I would see that this is the image that is representing the map that I have created. Now I can change that, which means that if I go in there, loading up again, not only are you loaded back into the latest level that you have selected. So if you have this level and you have selected it and you have exited the map, the current level selection stays active when you come back and revisit your map. But it also allows me to go into my levels and pick a specific one that I want as a representation. So I want this level to be my representation for this map. I could go in and create, especially with map decorations, I could go in and create probably something like a cover sheet, like a cover map level that is then including all the representation or the image that I have created to represent that, which I think is also quite helpful, especially again if you share your maps on the public library. So now that I have selected this level and I save, once I go back to my dashboard, and press update, yes, there you go. The latest image is now used as a representation of that map. Which again, I feel like a lot of you will utilize in quite clever ways to create amazing teaser images of the map that you're sharing in the public library. So that's the core essence of, let me just quickly go back and see if I missed something. Map thumbnails, yes, page up, page down. Well, because of the core change of the hidden or unhidden levels, the page up, page down key will now ignore hidden levels when you quickly switch between those levels. And we've also touched the second general change here. bug fixes. There are several bug fixes out there, so I can only preview. Works properly now for uploads. The asset manager has the duplicate color panel that found its way in there, has been removed, has been fixed. We finally fixed that the alpha value that you save in a prop collection has an effect when you place the prop. And for the UVTT export, which you can use for Foundry if you want to use your maps in Foundry, or if you want to use them in Fantasy Grounds, we have now updated the native light export option to work properly. So this is what has happened in the DungeonFog kind of general weekly patch update sphere. But I also want to show you what is kind of secretly cooking while we are talking in terms of what is coming next. And if you remember our roadmap, then we said the only thing that's left for us to do before we can switch to the features that you have voted upon are the GM nodes. No worries, Damien, you found your way in here, so don't worry. Here you are, welcome. Okay, so while we're doing the patches on a weekly schedule, or we try to do them on a weekly schedule to patch them for the battlemap editor, and while Nikita and his team are working on the Deus application, and they just recently released the latest Deus update, there's going to be another one hopefully before the mapping it out on the 25th, so we can revisit and look at that in our monthly mapping it out stream, where we just talk about Deus. And he's not only working on those patches, but he's also working in parallel to that on the newest features that we want to introduce. And on the roadmap, the only thing that's missing before we go for the walls and paths tool that is coming up, that you voted first in our feature vote, is the gem nodes. And I got access. It's super early, but I've got access to the gem nodes, and I'm blown away. It's amazing. It's not finished, so please don't take this as, oh, we're going to have that next week. Thank you for the follow. Please don't take this as, we're going to have that next week. I think we're still a month away until we're really finished with it. Hello, hi, greetings to Hamburg from Vienna. Hallo und herzlich willkommen. So but we still I think the cool part about a community stream, a weekly community stream, is that we can look at things that are currently in development and in progress, and catch your feedback. Include the new GM nodes. I think not many of you are really using the GM nodes, and I can clearly understand why, because our current GM nodes have been neglected for quite some time now. And let's do a little history on what are the GM nodes, what did we intend them to be, what are they today, and what are they going to be in the future. So, for those of you who remember our initial Kickstarter campaign back in 2017, there we said, we came out with the concept that we can use GM nodes, like we can use the map that you are drawing to convert the images and the information that you put to the map into a GM node system that helps you to write your little adventure nodes and probably lay out them to some extent so that you can use them as a PDF or you can use them in your games, like in our viewers, in the DungeonFog viewer and the GM viewer from DungeonFog, and hopefully you can also use them to export them with third-party integrations like Foundry or Fantasy Grounds or GM Binder or World Anvil. So that was the initial concept. And we started working on that until we kind of ran out of time. And you were throwing so many battlemap feature requests at us that we kind of paused it. And I think there was a survey back then where we asked what should we do next, and it was voted at the bottom. So it never really got the attention that this, I think, amazing feature should have gotten. So last year, so in 2018, we were fully focusing on the finalization for the launch of the DungeonFog editor. In 2019, we were already prepping that, and it was on our roadmap for 2019, but it got pushed back into 2020. And 2020 was quite a hard year for us, so it got pushed back again, and now we finally had time to it. So another reason why I think not many of you are using the GM notes at the moment is because of the way that we've neglected them. They aren't that easy to understand. The current GM note system is basically a text editor where you can go and write stuff, and you can style it to some extent, and you can organize it to some extent. And the concept that you can convert a map object into a note is in a very rough, rudimentary way in there. So I can take this and I can drag it here, and it will automatically create the name of the room and the image. Plus, we gave you a little summary of what this room is containing or is made of. However, it is far from what we kind of initially intended for the tool to be, and far from what it could be if you really think about that. So luckily enough, we had quite a run this year, because the way we restructured DungeonFog allowed us to free Andy for really putting work into the online battlemap editor. And he proposed an amazing concept that we adapted. And now we are on a point where you can go from, if you look at this image here, which was our initial Kickstarter concept back then, to what this is. And I'm taking the blame. It's terrible. It's absolutely not what we've intended it to be. But now we finally have the time, and we have made it to be something like this. So what you're seeing here right now is kind of a development build. A lot of things are still broken in there. But this is what Andy is currently working on. And I think this, if you look at that, is quite amazing. So all of that is editable, and some parts of that are generated or will be generated. Right now I was faking it a little bit because Andy and I were building the layout and style effects for that. Will be generated out of the map that you have created. So the whole thing is, if you're familiar with like classic content management systems or HTML editing, this is basically, we landed the idea from a public open source library that is intended to be a content management system for websites. And Andy took this and adapted it. So you can take all of those things, and as you can see, it will be coming to your question in a second. It has a proper structure, and you can take stuff and shift it around. I can go in and duplicate the headline, and I can take it and shift it down here somewhere. Say, okay, there's another overview of it. Let's rename that. This is Adventure Time. Yay, where's Finn? Well, oh, talking about him, he's there. Give me a second, I need to let the dog in. Okay. So you have full control over those things. If you look here, you see that in the inspector you can adjust a lot of stuff. It's like a mini InDesign that you can use to style your pages and style the map descriptions that you want to have. So now there was a question here which Hanlon asks, which things will be filled in automatically? Okay, so when you go to blocks, this is your block section where you can add blocks. You can add a classic headline by just dragging that over and putting it here. So now it's an unformatted headline. We are going to implement kind of styles to that so that this is themed as a fantasy theme, as you can see here right now, or it's themed as a sci-fi theme if you want to have sci-fi notes. Hi DM Stretch. And yeah, the doggo hype. He's already asleep. So those things, there are things that are not generated from the nodes. But the second it goes into map elements, which can be props, prop groups, rooms, levels, level groups, room groups. When you pick them, when you open that, you get this little selector that says, okay, which of those elements would you like to include? Now I could go here and press something. It wouldn't do anything for me because this is still in development. But the concept is that the second you add such an element, you will get, let's look at that for a second. You will get, for example, if you drag in a full level, like the map level preview, which would, in my example, is not very interesting. This is a level, and this level contains two rooms. There's two buildings, one building here, one building there. And there you can see, so those are the two buildings, and they consist of all those rooms, which you can control in the editor. You can tag a room and say add it to the nodes or do not add it to the nodes because it's unnecessary. But this is a level preview, and if I take this and put it on the map, it will automatically generate from the name of the level that you've given that level. This one, this is just pure styling. It will add the level image. It will add the little node that you have added to that level. And then it will list all the map decorations that you have on that level. So that's what happens if you place a whole level preview image onto your canvas. If you place a room group, something else happens, and I think this is quite interesting for many of you. The room group, which means that you have taken several rooms in DungeonFog and put them into a group folder. When you place that on your nodes, it will create again the name of the room group as a headline, and you can always go in there and change that because I assume many of you will have unnamed room here, but you can always go in there and change it. Then it has the room description, then it has a little preview image of that thing, and then it will create a little legend of all the rooms that are in there, alphabetically sorted. So you can always go in there and resort them by just, for example, putting the foyer down here and the hallway down here, and you can go in there and say, no, that's not the foyer, that's just the entrance. So everything stays editable. Also, the whole thing there are buttons here, but they're currently broken. And I need to find the right one. Because those are linked blocks that you put in here, you can update them. So if you change something on the map, you click on update all linked blocks and they will refresh with the state of with the changes that you've applied to the room, for example. The ref asks a question. I've seen your question. I will come to that in a minute. the there you have other options like clear all, open wizard, because we're going to pre-fill, like when you open the GM notes, you're going to get a wizard that asks you, do you want to have a blank or a custom or a standard pre-filled document here. Hi Ren, nice to see you. And this is basically what happens when you place a room group here. When you place a single room there, and I'm not sure how often you are really going to do that. We said we want to go a little bit. How can we approach that? That was the core question that I especially have been discussing with Andy and Bodhi over the past 2 days. And before we look at that, you can also place stat blocks, or at least stat block templates in there that you can pre-fill. And while I was doing that, I was saying, well, I think a room is kind of something that could have a stat block. So when you place a room, you will get the name of the room, the preview image, the description, and then what previously was this ugly summary table that we had here, we will do this as kind of a little stat blocky style that says the appeal, the exit, the objects, are there hidden things in there, are there traps, NPCs or monsters, and again, all of that will be taken from what you have drawn and will be just converted there. So you can always go in there and start to change things up here. So that's this. When it comes to map elements itself, map decoration. So the idea behind map decoration is that it is something like, for example, if I scroll up here, like the compass rose, the headline, those little decorative elements, they are kind of a mix between, is this a prop that you want to use on a map that you show to your players? Or is this a decorative element that you just want to use to spice up the map, if you want to share the map, if you want to use the map in your notes, or if you want to use the map in a publication. So a map decoration object is behaving differently when it comes to the player view, and when it comes to your export, because you can decide whether or not you want to export that. For us, it is now an opportunity to say that you can use decorational objects, like map decoration objects, as labels on your scene, like on the whole level, as I have here. It's very small, I apologize. I'm not sure if you can see it if I zoom in. Also, it's German. But here I basically used map decoration objects to label the map. And I used them on the stage, so I have a general stage overview of that. And this allows us to collect them specifically and give them to you as a map decoration information. And again, I can rename that. I can make this the crypta areas. And then I have all the areas here labeled. And if I would have labeled them properly with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I would see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here as well. So this is the core concept of what we are doing with the notes. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming in there. For example, I saw the question from Anna. She said, that looks great. Any chance of getting that integrated with World Anvil? And the answer is yes. So one of the reasons why this is still a month away is that we now want to finish what we call MVP, the minimal viable product. So we want to finish the core user interface and the core functionality, which will probably take us about 2, maybe 3 weeks to finish that. And then once we're finished with that, before we release it to you, we also want to work with World Anvil on integration. Ideally two-way integration, which means you can take that and put that into World Anvil, or you can take a Word Anvil article and use it to create a text section here. We also want to update our Universal VTT exporter so that you can create journal entries for Foundry out of that. And we also want to make that, hopefully, Forecaster will be helping us there. We can make the same thing for Fantasy Grounds Unity. And we're going to at least start our conversation with GM Binder and see if we can make this as a way that you can export this into GM Binder as well. So that's the general strategy behind that. And I have been playing around with that to the limits of what it can do right now, and I think it's really amazing. Like it's absolutely mind-blowing, and probably we should just look at that in a quick rundown of how can you build such a thing. So what I've been doing right now is I've been adding a section here. This is just an empty section that I can now pre-fill, but I can also define this section as the minimum height could be, like if I want to have that as a page filler, for example. I can't remember what was the minimum height for my page container here. 1,200. Okay, I think it was just a generic number. Okay, so now I have that, and now I can start adding something in there. Let's call this row. This is my page container. Okay. So I have a cell in here, and I can combine those cells to whatever I like. So I can go in, for example, now the reason I did the page container is because now I can add a background image to that. I could say, let's do a background image, browse and try to find one. I think where did I save my examples? Somewhere here. There. Open. So I want that as a background image. Perfect. This is now functioning as a background image here. We're going to remove those borders here. This is still work in progress. So now that I have that, and because it is a background image, I can now add a new section here, which I will just use as a spacer. And then I will add a second section here where I'm going to put text in. And this is going to be my amazing headline. And we can start formatting that. So let me go to that. Let's first change the color. So this should be white. Let's change the font. So let's make this. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. Attack graffiti. Oh, wow. So this needs to be much bigger, 64. Let's add some shadow to it. So let's say 3, well, maybe 6 in that case, and 6 here, and give it a blur of 4, so it's a little bit more blurred. And what else do I want to do? I will probably want it to be center aligned. Okay, so I feel like this should be probably at 250. So there the headline sits better here. Now let's add a divider. I can't really, this is the only thing that I haven't really found out how to properly style that. Because I think this is the color I want to do, but I'm not really certain. Oh, did it change the color? No, it didn't. Font size. Does that do anything? No, it doesn't. So probably It's the border color and it needs to have a border. Let's see. Background, maybe it's that. Again, this is going to improve drastically. Ah, haha! I somehow managed to colorize it. I still don't know how. Border radius. I actually don't want to do the border radius. I want to. What happens if I ramp this up? Nothing. Oh, width. There you go. Maybe I need to ramp this up. Yes. Okay, there you go. So it's, again, this is exactly why we are still in development for that. So I want this. I think I can remove the height here a little bit. Let's make it 50. And now it's kind of closer to here. Okay, and now we're going to add another text block here, which is going to be my. This is my subline. And the subline is going to be white as well. So luckily we now have those colors preset already. And it's going to be a different font. Let's make it the Hobbit. Wow. Okay. At 24. And center. Okay. So that's basically how I can now, and as you can see, this is all contained in the cells. So I could go in there and put the divider on top. Now it would be sitting up here, or I could put the divider here, here, or here, and it will automatically update that. So this is a great way to quickly structure stuff. Now again, when it comes to adding more things like the box on the room section, the image, they're not working at the moment, so we can only fake them. Which means that if you look at the way that I have faked it, this is basically when you look at the structure. So this is the specific row containing the cell. The cell itself then contains the text, the divider, another text box that has other stylings to it, and then this row, which means this is again a row containing one cell for the image and one cell for the room group. Then the room group itself contains another text, another divider with a different setting, another divider. I don't know why there are two dividers in there. I feel like that's one too much. Let's select that and delete it. And then you have all those text fields, which are quite weird. Text in text in text in text. So this might need to be fixed first. Because that could be just a flat text here. So basically, if you would drop that, we would create the whole container structure for you automatically, and you could then go in and restructure that by yourself. I think, are there any questions from your side? Because I think this quite explains how the new GM nodes work. And once the menu, as you can see here, the menu is already back there. I just can't reload that page. The second I reload it, because it's not saved, everything will be lost. So for the past 3 days, I had this open and I kept my computer running just to have it for internal meetings. And I can't wait until we can finally save those nodes, because then I can close this window. So here you can see for the document, you can export it, which is a placeholder at the moment. You can print it. You can go to the help desk to get additional help on how to work with the GM nodes. In the edit, you can update all your linked blocks. You can clear all nodes, which is probably already working. Yes, it is. Goodbye. You can open the wizard that doesn't do much at the moment, because this is going to be the help wizard when you launch the GM nodes, where you can pick. We are thankful for your sacrifice. Yes, we are. Coming to your question, E.E. Armstrong, I will answer that. The answer is yes, but I can show it in a minute. This is going to be the wizard where you can pick whether you want to start a blank document or you want to have a pre-filled document with all the instructions of how to pre-fill that. So that's another important thing. The new GM nodes will not, that's very bright, let's go here. The new GM nodes will not just confront you with a blank notes field that you have to pre-fill yourself. It will also auto pre-fill that based on the map that you've created. Although we've been talking about a specific AI on April the 1st, this is still no AI. So the way that we're pre-filling it is in the best way that we can mechanically interpret your map. So you still might need to restructure it in there, but we're doing the best to interpret how you would like it to be pre-filled based on the labels and names that you give rooms or room groups. So I thought it would be the place where magic happens. Magic. Well, we're doing our best to work a little magic here, but it's still, and again, it's going to be our first implementation. So we're going to learn a lot from whatever you're doing there. So there was a question, does the print have an option to print plain or will it be textured? Yes, you can print plain and you can print textured. It's already working to some extent, if I find it here. Because and this is, again, this is just currently the browser print. But we can, and as you can see, its page breaks are still weird. So this is the textured version, but we can pass the information to ignore all background graphics, which means that we can give you a white version, and we could give you, I think there is an option somewhere, a black and white version as well. So I hope this answers your question. Is yes, you can do both. Another important thing is, thank you, Rin. That's amazing to hear. So Rin just said that he loves the latest patch for the battle map and the native VTT lights are working great. Perfect, amazing, great to hear. Another important thing is, I think that might excite some of you, is when you share maps, you also share nodes, which means that if you have a beautifully created map with all the beautifully created nodes, you can share that. We are going to look at a way that you can select something like this and take the styling, copy the styling, so that you can reuse this in other maps, and you can take the whole document styling and share it with the community or reuse it in your own maps. It's going to be a very rudimentary implementation at the beginning, which means it's probably CSS or HTML code that you need to copy across. But I think that one of the biggest advantages of doing that is that you as a community can start to create your own styles and your own designs and share them around. So if someone is creating an amazing Cthulhu design, you can take that and share that around. Or you can create the Cthulhu map with all the elements on that and share that. And people can take that and kind of use your style if you want that. So exactly, sharing notes, I think, is important. And in regards to blocks that are still missing, to quickly run down the list. So there is a list element still missing, a table element is still missing, a link to a different map. So you're going to be able to link one map with another. So you can link between maps, which means you can also link between nodes. And yeah. Generally speaking, this is where we are at the moment in GM nodes. In terms of development time, as I've previously said, it's going to be hopefully a June release, but we will see. We're estimating that it is at least 4 weeks away from being finished to be released. And again, we do not want to hand it out before we have proper integrations, at least to some of the partners that we're working with, because I think especially the nodes are something that really, really ask for integration. Thinking about World Anvil or thinking about Foundry. So let me quickly look at your comments. Sharing notes was just what I've needed. Yes, we've already touched that. Linking will be glorious. It will be. I can't wait to have that. I thought I'm just blind not to find a way to copy arrangements that fit my maps. Not sure what you mean. But you, again, sharing maps, sharing notes, sharing styles. Herbert and Thomas are going to start working on public prop libraries, like prop templates and public room templates, so you can share a specific prop combination or you can share a specific room template. So there's going to be, while we're working on this, there's also going to be a lot that is kind of community focused that allows you to share stuff. Yeah, if you have a map and you want to share it, there is a specific button here, and that is make public, and with that the map becomes public. Just make sure that you are the kind of intellectual owner of whatever you're sharing, and that if you have used custom props, you have the permission to use and share those custom props. But if you're ticking those boxes, you can share them and people can take it. And again, this will include notes, and soon, hopefully, there will be also a way to share prop templates and room templates as well. There was a question from Vosper that says, partners Foundry. Does DungeonFog link into Foundry in some way? So it doesn't link directly into Foundry. The developers behind Foundry are super busy, so we haven't had the time to talk to them about that yet. But there is a specific plugin that you can use, a module that is called the Universal Importer, and you can export a map in DungeonFog to save it as a df to VTT file. So there is a specific export format here. Let me just quickly go back in there. So when you go to export, you can pick the Universal VTT exporter. That will create this df to VTT file. And when you export that, it will basically just write that image into the df-vtt format. And in Foundry, when you go to the modules and plugins, there you can see that there is, I can quickly open it. I think I have it somewhere nearby. Well, hello, Foundry. It doesn't like me at the moment. But there is an importer that's called Universal Importer. You can search that in the modules, or you can follow the link in our help desk article about that. And that will allow you to import the map with dynamic lighting and with the dynamic walls, so line of sight walls and all that stuff. And once we have finished our GM notes, it will also allow you to get your journal entries directly, the written notes into journal entries into Foundry. Right. Yeah, as you can see, it's busy. There are a lot of things going on at the moment, and I'm quite happy with this year. Our last year, I feel like for many of you, the last year was a little bit of of a bummer. But I feel like we're making up, and we're making good progress. So I can't wait to talk to you next week and maybe share some news on the GM notes and whatever other stuff we have ready for next week. Don't forget that in 2 weeks' time from today, there is going to be the next Mapping It Out, where we will be looking at the day's progress of this month, of what month do we have? May, I believe. Yes, May. Sorry. Because I can see that you're writing that, I can highly recommend it. Like, I mean, we have our viewers here, and we're playing. If I'm playing on the table in person with my people, I'm using the DungeonFog viewers for that, because it's kind of designed for that. But since last year, when we were all locked at home, and I had to find a good way to with dice rolling and character sheets and D&D Beyond integration and, you know, all the stuff, all the boxes that you want to tick on a virtual tabletop. I finally found the time to play around with Foundry, and I love it so much. It's amazing with all the plugins that the community is bringing to Foundry. It's mind blowing. And now that I can quickly, in a few clicks, mid-game if necessary, I can quickly export a map, import it, and have it ready in Foundry, is just what I needed. So I can highly recommend Foundry. I'm a big fan, and we're going to do our best to support it to the best we can. Now I've completely lost my train of thought. Yes, in 2 weeks' time, there's going to be the next Mapping It Out, where we're going to throw a look at days. This week, we're going to have, on Thursday, we're going to have Tony, our DungeonFog artist, as a guest, and we will be reviewing another winner of the Masters of the Tools contest. Also this weekend, we're going to have our first review with Corthel, where we're going to look at the new asset pack, because he's the winner of the Masters of the Tools contest. And as the winner, he was allowed, or he won the opportunity to name the next asset pack that we're doing. And he came up with an amazing theme for that. So we're going to review this weekend, the first design draft from Tony. And if everything is approved, then I would think that it is going to be released the week after, maybe, or at least in the last week of May. For you as sci-fi fans out there, there is also going to be, by the end of this month, there's going to be a huge, giant new sci-fi pack coming. It's 100 assets, and we've sat down with a guy from How to Be a Great GM, and specifically designed this to his needs and requests, because he is working on a Foundry integration for his new setting, the Bounty Hunter TTRPG, which is a space sci-fi game, and complete rule set. So we thought this is an amazing opportunity to help him with assets for his Foundry VTT maps, and also update our sci-fi library. So this is also coming this month. So this week Thursday, Tony is going to be our guest, and we will be reviewing the Masters of the Tools map, the Ocean Temple, which was the bronze winner. And hopefully next week we will then make up for last week where Janet had to cancel and I had to cancel because of migraine. We're going to then review the honorary mention map, the Cityscape of Katora. In regards to other news from the DungeonFog, not only the DungeonFog sphere, but the Circle of the World Builder sphere, which is DungeonFog, World Anvil, How to Be a Great GM and Chaora. On June the 5th, almost tomorrow, if I think about that, there is going to be another Circle of World Builders masterclass. It's going to be how to not create a boring campaign. And it will be panels from Guy, from World Anvil, from Chaora, and from us, where we take our forte, our specializations. So we were going to talk about battle map making. Chaora is going to talk about like world map building or region map building. World Anvil is going to take something about storytelling, and Guy is going to take something that is in the sphere of game mastering. What if I want to create a boring campaign? Well, that's going to be the topic of 2022 then, I assume. It's going to be a full day, so it's going to be several panels from each of us, plus then a panel discussion at the end where we all sit together and discuss those topics. So if you want to get a notification, check that out, get additional information, go to circleofworldbuilders.com and sign up for the newsletter, because that will allow us to send you all the information that you need because there are going to be homework and there are going to be things that you can do. If you want to receive them, then sign up for the newsletter there. In other news from the Circle of World Builders sphere, World Anvil has a quite amazing new feature that is the Vote for Features tool. So in World Anvil you can earn I'm not sure how they're calling that, but you can earn World Anvil coins. And those World Anvil coins you can spend on wishing a new feature. So there's no microtransaction thingy going on there. Au contraire, it's all about those who are really active on World Anvil. They get their kind of representation, digital representation of their activity, which they can then invest into having the loudest voice on wishing for new features. I think this is amazing. We at DungeonFog are going to have a close look at that. And if we think that this is something that we should do as well, then we probably might do this as well. So look, keep an eye out for that. I think this is amazing, and check it out. I think it's a brilliant way of kind of rewarding someone who's really active in the community, who's active on publishing articles, sharing stuff, because those people should then have a say, have a louder voice when it comes to wishing new features. Chaora, if you haven't seen it yet, Chaora has updated his website. He has a new redesign on the website, which I think is really cool. There is also, I think there's a new map pack coming out, and also there is going to be a new map pack coming to our marketplace. We're not really sure when. We will see. So it's either this week, probably next week, but there is definitely going to be a new map pack in the marketplace. And the same is for Forgotten Adventures. I'm already in contact with Peter, and we're talking about which map pack we're going to push to the marketplace. Regarding the marketplace itself, next week we will do a little look at the marketplace, and where we say, okay, how has it been progressing so far? Are we happy? What do we need to change? Is there anything we need to change? And what is your general feedback? So if you want to give us feedback on the marketplace beta that is currently running, the marketplace is there you go. This is the big new menu item here, and here you can see all the stuff that is in the marketplace. And if you want to give us feedback, how do you like the tool? Are there any improvements that you would like to see? Please join our Discord and let us know there. And last but not least, Guy, if you haven't been watching it, Guy has started a new series, How to Be a Great GM, has now the Training Grounds, which is I think, a very interesting format, because Guy invites a GM and several players who do not know each other to play a session. And at the end of the session, the GM gets a review from the players with a kind of a scoring system. And then the GM can take that review and try to improve on that. So there's going to be a second game where then we will look, or you as a viewers together with Guy and everyone is going to see if the GM has taken that information and implemented in the new game. So the idea behind Training Grounds is on a very playful level to educate GMs on how they could improve their games. And I think that's a lot of fun. I haven't had the time to fully watch it. I'm 50 minutes in at the moment. But this is something that I'm going to be looking at on the weekend, because I'm really excited to see how this is going. So if you're still looking for a little competition, a little fun about being a GM, learning, improving, check out How to Be a Great GM on YouTube, or I think on, well, apparently on Twitch, but you can find the stream on YouTube in the VOD section, and it's called Training Grounds. Wow, that was a lot of news. So I think we're done for today. We filled a full hour. Have a look at that. From my side, thank you very much for spending the time with me. I'm looking forward to get your feedback on Discord. And until the next time, so until Thursday, I say thank you very much and happy map making. Bye!